Carthage, a city in North Africa, was originally founded by the Phoenician city of Tyre in 814 BCE and was built by the legendary queen Dido. Legend has it that the Berber chieftain who controlled the area told the queen she could have as much land as an ox's hide could cover. The queen would ingeniously cut a hide into thin strips and lay them end to end, enabling her to claim a whole hill for her settlement. The city would grow rapidly and would eventually come to dominate the Mediterranean. So how exactly did this great city dissipate into nothingness? Simple answer, Rome. But you want a more detailed recounting, don't you? Let's start at the beginning of their conflict. By the time Rome was an emerging power, Carthage was already a flourishing nation, mostly based around their extensive trade network. The first major interaction between the two countries would be in 509 BCE when Rome became a republic. The two powers would sign a treaty that essentially forbade Rome from encroaching into Carthaginian spheres of influence in the Western Mediterranean and North Africa. It also stated that Rome and Carthage would be friends and allies. The Romans and Carthaginians would renew the alliance and re-establish their spheres of influence with another treaty in 348 BCE. This treaty was pretty much a reiteration of the first, but with the addition of a few cities for both parties. The nations would sign a couple more treaties in the following years, but the peace would not last. Their rivalry would begin with the Punic Wars in the 3rd century BCE. Carthage and Rome had been supporting opposing factions who were vying for control on the island of Sicily. The Romans supported Messina, while Carthage backed Syracuse. Their opposing interests would result in a direct conflict between the two. Early on, the Carthaginians realized they were outmatched on land, and this was further cemented by their early loss at the Battle of Agrigentum in 262 BCE. From then on, the war was mostly a naval battle, and while the Carthaginian fleet was renowned for its naval prowess, Rome had no real navy or naval experience. After a crushing defeat at the Lipari Islands, Rome got their act together and quickly assembled a sizable fleet in a display of their immense adaptability and ingenuity. The Romans then proceeded to crush the Carthaginian navy in a nearly unbroken string of victories, such as at Mylae, Solsis, and Ecnomus. Rome finally won the war in 241 BCE. They forced Carthage to pay heavy war reparations and would claim Sicily for themselves. Rome then seized the islands of Corsica and Sardinia in 238 BCE. Carthage was helpless and could not do anything to retain the islands after having just struggled through the mercenary war. Hamilcar Barca was the Carthaginian general in Iberia and had amassed territory on the Iberian Peninsula. This was where Carthage would mine most of the silver used to pay reparations for the First Punic War. In 219 BCE, Hannibal, the son of Hamilcar, would besiege the Roman-protected city of Saguntum. Although Hannibal had not crossed the Ebro River and was therefore well within the bounds of the Ebro River Treaty, the Romans took this as a declaration of war. Hannibal would then proceed to cross the Ebro River, and then he audaciously took his army, which consisted of 40,000 men and 37 elephants, across the Alps, an unprecedented feat at the time. He went on to destroy the Romans at the Battle of the Trebia, Trasimene, and at Cannae, where he annihilated 16 Roman legions. He would stay behind enemy lines on the Italian peninsula for the next 16 years. While Hannibal was in Italy, one of Rome's generals, Publius Cornelius Scipio, later known as Scipio Africanus, was in Iberia, erasing all Carthaginian conquests in the area. Scipio would then return to Italy, win the consulship, and then lead an invasion of North Africa as the governor of Sicily. Upon hearing of Scipio's invasion, Hannibal returned to North Africa. He would meet Scipio at the Battle of Zama. Scipio prevailed after a hard-fought and very closely matched battle. Rome had just won the Second Punic War. Carthage was again forced to pay a heavy indemnity to Rome and was not permitted to raise an army. Carthage also lost most of its territory, reducing it to a shell of its former self. For half a century, since the Second Punic War, Carthage had been suffering raids from the Numidians. Up until now, they had been unable to protect themselves because they were forbidden from raising an army as per the terms of the peace with Rome. After they had fully paid their indemnity to Rome, Carthage felt they were no longer bound to the terms of the peace treaty, although Rome begged to defer. The Carthaginians then raised an army and attacked the Numidians. Rome believed this was a violation of the peace treaty and declared war on Carthage. Rome conducted a siege on Carthage until the city fell. Carthage was then systematically burned to the ground for 17 days. Some say that the Romans salted the earth where Carthage lay so that the city may never rise again.